then, okay, so let me do a screen share here. So you should then see my Vetter software screen. And here we are. All right, good morning, everyone. Again, this is Matt from Vetter Software. And just a moment, sorry. There we go. That was my alarm clock and my phone went off. Sorry for the meeting. Let me just turn that off. Okay, and so this week, I appreciate everyone's attendance. And so this week, what I wanted to do is, one, just briefly review some of the new additions or enhancements that we added this week, and that was the main ones being able to check in with essentially without a bundle, so being able to create an invoice directly from check-in, and then being able also to check out without collecting a payment. Those are as minor as they sound. Those are features that were requested by many people. We also now added the itemization of late charges. So previously, it did not say on an account statement that someone received necessarily what the late charges were. Now we would say every day, whatever day it happened, it'll mention what the late charges were. It's itemized now on the statement. And I'm going to briefly cover late charges, and then the checking in and checking out features. Those are always so important to a clinic. And I like to use office hours as a way to review best practices and options in checking people in and out. So I'm going to jump to settings here first. And just to review very quickly how late charges work. And where do we have this here? It would be a billing question. Let's see here. Invoice footer, payment terms right here under settings. So just as a brief review how it works. And so not every clinic is always aware of everything that happens here. So we operate on, most commonly, everyone's going to do a net 30 days, right? And so this is essentially when you want the bill to be paid, right? Whether in 20 days, on receipt, 30 days, what have you. We chose net 30 here. And that means then on the 31st day, any outstanding balance will begin to accrue interest charges or late fees. Now, we chose 1.5% simply because most states have a law that says you can't charge more than 18% annually, right, in interest charges. So 12 times 1.5 is 18%. You also have the option, right? You also have the option to just charge a flat fee. Maybe you want to charge $5, right, a month for any kind of late fee. That's up to you, but percent being the most common, frequency being monthly here. And now here's another little trick that not everyone's aware of: starting 0 days after past due. Some clinics, for example, right, they may give you another grace period. Maybe you say, hey, because I really like my clientele type thing, I might give them a 10-day grace period. So even though on the 31st day you could be applying 1.5% interest or late fee charges, you're not going to start, the software won't start billing it in this case until 10 days after day 40, for example. And that's up to the clinic policy. Okay. And then we have the option, right, of when do we want this to be done? This was a big request here on Total Due. A lot of clinics said, I really don't, even though it's late, I don't want to charge somebody for just $1, right? So we also have this option to further filter your late charges. And then finally, do I want to apply it to, right, all unpaid invoices or new invoices? And if you make any changes, what's neat, it will tell you here by how many you made. Now, this is a demo account, so I don't have, right, that many. So, for example, if I did this, let's just say net 20, I don't have that many people in the account, but it's going to give you, and so what it'll do is it'll give you a heads up. So in this case, so I hit save, starting, let's say, 0 days. Now, if I have a lot of people, right, in my account, it's going to tell me how many were impacted. So in this case, only 15 people were impacted. It went from 17 to 15, so I made it net 20 instead of net 30. Right, so this is a neat little feature we just added too, so you're aware of how many invoices will be impacted by this. Okay, I'm going to pause really quickly to see if there are any questions about how late fees work over here. No, we're all right. We're good so far. Now, I wanted to come to, let's see, checking in. Now, previously in Vetter, you had to check in. Oh, look, the task was assigned to me. Let me just, might as well check it out while we're here, see what I have to do. This is nice. Late fee calculation completed successfully. So it's also going to tell you what it did and what's going on. Nice job, software. Okay. And we come back to the schedule. And we close this here and make an appointment. So I was saying previously in Vetter, you could only, you had to assign a bundle at the time of check-in, right, to generate an invoice. And for a lot of clinics, they didn't want necessarily their front office staff, or I'm sorry, the reception staff, to make the decision what bundle they would need. And so for a while in Vetter, what we were doing, and let me grab one of my characters here, Gargamel and Azrael from the Smurfs. What a lot of clinics were doing, they were using a check-in bundle or a $0 item bundle. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to hit next here. Next. I'm not going to send, don't need to send a confirmation here or a reminder. Same day appointment. We hit save. Good. So I'm going to hover over here and I'm going to come to check-in. And so previously in the past, we'd come to here and we would have to add a bundle. Now, what we're doing with a lot of clinics, so they didn't want to have that decision be made by the front desk until a doctor, so they'd rather have a doctor make that decision, which is understandable. We would use what's called a check-in bundle. And the check-in bundle would be able to pick a new invoice here, would have a $0 or zero item, right? It wouldn't even print on the invoice. It would just allow you to create that invoice. Well, let's be honest, the software can do better. This was cumbersome. You should be able just to create an invoice directly from check-in because checking in has good features all the way around. So now I have no bundle and I can now just go ahead and create an invoice, hit save, and we'll come to here and you'll notice there's the invoice right away. So I can jump into the appointment, right? And I can go ahead and, right, just start adding items as need be. Okay, so I come to the invoice, right? And now the doctor or the technician can much more easily, right? Oh, let's add a bundle to this, or let's add an item, right? Or, for example, they can do it directly from the patient screen by going to, let's say, going to Azrael right here, right? And you can add items then directly to Azrael from here, right? Because an invoice already exists by adding new items here, okay? Or more conveniently, what I recommend doing at the time of check-in is also you can add a medical note, right? And then they can add items directly. The invoice would be tied to the medical note, which is what I believe is the best kind of practice way to do things. I'm going to undo this check-in very briefly. Let's come in and do this again. We're going to check in Azrael. And we're going to come to here, and a nice little trick here, right, is to, here's no bundle needed, but is to have it connected to a medical note. And let's just say maybe it's a basic soap here, and I go ahead and then select new invoice, and now the invoice will be tied to a medical note. And that's always desirable just for record-keeping purposes, as you can see right here. Now, again, if you choose, if I jump into this medical note here, right, the invoice is already going to exist, and we can go ahead and add items to it as need be, right? I could hit a new record here, for example, and see the invoice is already here, 3063. It's the one we created. Conversely, if you did not want to add the medical note, again, maybe it's something the doctor wants to do, we can do it again like I showed you from Azriel's screen, the patient screen. We could come to here and then go ahead and add the charges. New record. Here's our charge, and their invoice 3063 already pops up. And this enables the doctor then to add a medical note separately. So just a variety of ways to do things. As I like to say in Vetter, 1 plus 2 equals 3, and 0 plus 3 equals 3, and 4 minus 1 equals 3. Well, you get the idea. There's a variety of ways to do this, and to do a certain feature in Vetter or function, and that's up to the clinic to find what the way it's best configured to their workflow. Okay. Let's see if there's any questions there about the checking in without a receipt. I'm sorry, without a bundle. No? Okay, good. Now, we're going to use the same opportunity here. I'm going to add an item here. Let's just say I'm going to add some cephalexin, and boom. And I could tie this to a diagnosis if need be, but nothing. I'm going to just put 11 pills down. I'm going to hit next, and we have a huge lot here of 1,000 capsules left, as you can see. Save and done. And so now we have essentially an item on our invoice now, right? Has a charge on it at least, just so we can see. All right, so now we have a charge for the cephalexin, even though it's only $6. And of course, you could keep adding items to here, right? But let's go and take a look at the checkout procedure. Now, previously, when the software was first developed, there wasn't a, quote, checkout feature. It was everybody just collected payment here. And then it meant if there were things such as reminder certificates, vaccine certificates, letters, things like that, that had to be, right, sent separately from the client or the patient screen. And you can still do this. But the advantage to checking out from the schedule or from the clinic census now means that you can send all the letters and everything and collect payment in one fell swoop. Okay, and I'm going to, just to make the example a little bit more valuable, I want to jump into this medical note here, okay? And I want to add a letter to the note. We already have one charge. We already have the one charge, the cephalexin here. And let me go ahead and I want to add a letter here. This is Azriel, good. And select template. I'm just going to say exam discharge letter. The owner's Gargamel. I hit save. Right, it just has our little, and I could put findings in from the medical note if I wanted to, so on and so forth. But now the letter, just want you to see the letters there. Okay, so now it's part of the note. It's part of the patient record. It'll be part of the client communication, view letters. Here's the letter that's part of this note. Okay, now the reason I bring this up in terms of checking out, in the old days, if you go here to collect payment, and I collect new payment, okay, that's great. I guess he has a balance on the account. There are the other invoices right there. Let me have them all listed, right? And I can't add anything else here. I can only go ahead and collect payment, okay? Now, one of the advantage of using the checkout is originally when we built this, we viewed billing as just a module, as a kind of command and control place where people would, right, just take care of billing related items, credits, returns, etc., late fees. But now we've added checkout feature in two different spots. It's in the schedule and it's in the clinic census. Okay. And the advantage here is I can do everything at once. So if I come to here and hit checkout, one of the nice things it's going to show every billing transaction that's there. So if I just want to deal with, let's say, today's, right, for 6/25, but also if I come down to here where it says documents and I put the cursor here, oh, well, let's say there was a vaccination that day and a reminder certificate and a receipt and, right, here's the letter we generated. Right, so if I then want to go ahead and collect, if I go ahead and then collect payment, right, all of these are going to be generated and it's going to come right, it's going to be either emailed or to the client or it's going to print at once. Incredibly efficient way of doing it. But in this case, let's say today, for whatever reason, he forgot his wallet at home. Gargamel forgot his wallet at home. Smurfs took it. Yeah, just go with me on that one. And we're going to go ahead, but we still want to generate what happened in a day's appointment. And previously in Vetter, you couldn't do this. You had to have, right, a dollar value to check out. But now we don't. Now we can check the client out. The appointment has been checked out for our records, and the documents are being printed. And this is a very useful feature for example, these incidences where somebody, forgot their wallet, or they're a really good client and you can trust them on this. Or more commonly for our equine veterinarians and large animal veterinarians, right, who are going out to farms and stables and barns and what have you, and there they bill people. They may be out there 3 times in a month, but they only bill, right, once a month. So, but it's nice to generate the checkout procedure. Here's our letter. Here are new reminders. Here's the vaccine certificate, although we didn't do any vaccines in this example, but you get the idea. So now you have the ability of, through the formal checkout, generating the necessary communication materials for a client, right, without having to collect payment. Now, of course, right, if the same thing is available in Census, right? So if I were to go and check anybody out, I can do that same process in Census. It shows them checked out here. The Census being a nice command and control place. So now the obvious question is going to be, hey, Matt, how come you don't have that available in billing, right? Again, 2 + 1, 1 + 2, 0 + 3, they all equal the same thing. And if you were to ask that, you're entirely right. So that same checkout ability to generate letters and documents, that is coming to billing too. And it's already in QA. We're testing it just to make sure all the kinks are worked out, and it will be by the end of the year or early next year, although engineering promised us by the end of the year. So now when you collect payments, you'll be able to do the exact same thing, right? And that invoice we didn't collect from Gargamel, still sitting right here. View unpaid invoices makes it even easier, and we see this right here. But you've checked him out, and he's been able to go along and do his business. But for the clinic's perspective, you still have a record of non-payment, which is important. I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions here. Hopefully I'm either overly charming or I'm doing a good job, or it all makes sense. Most likely the last one. And so again, just very minor things done this week. But this is part of, if you've been following my weekly emails or following my weekly office hours, the goal is, and I know one of the things Vetter has needed to improve upon, was to communicate better. Now, we originally didn't want to send everybody too many emails, but I convinced my boss over communication is better than under communication. So when we add enhancements, and a lot of times they're very small. It might be a very small thing that is technical in nature. For example, it might be the speed of a certain module might work faster, or little things like this. We're not going to announce those things just because you may not be able to see it. It's more of a technical thing, or how the background shades in and out when you're adding a new record. Those are small things we've done. But moving forward, when there are significant changes that will enhance the product experience for clients, I'm going to announce those every week, right? In those little emails of mine. My boss previously liked to wait for a once a month, right, product update. But if an item has already been in the software for 3 weeks, learning about it a month later doesn't always help you. I'll give you a classic example on that. Just recently, or actually this was a few months ago, we added a really neat feature in the medical note that we didn't announce because it was kind of how my boss used to do things, just as a product update once a month. And I'll give you an example. These are little things every week when I give a tip of the week, I'm going to mention these things. There used to be an issue in Vetter that, look at my lower right-hand corner here. Notice you're going to see a chevron very quickly. And it was that, let's say it was a very lengthy medical note, right? And so as a design choice, this is how we did things. But then, doctors and technicians would complain and say, well, gosh, to get to the top of the note, I have to scroll. Now, while that may not seem like a big deal, if I have to scroll an extra 30 times a day, it is a big deal. So this chevron automatically takes you to the top. And we didn't announce this. And I've been announcing it to everybody bit by bit. But these are the little things that a lot of people just don't notice. They go, oh, wow, that's a neat thing. So I'm going to every week, not just in office hours, but also announce, hey, here's a new feature here, because we add them, we just don't always tell people. And I apologize for that, but policies have changed and we're always looking to improve. So again, reviewing, late charges are now itemized on the client statements. Also showed you how late charges work. And we added the enhancement in late charges where if you make any amendments to the process, it's going to then tell you, 17 invoices were affected, 15 were affected, as you saw. You can now check in without a bundle and just go straight to the invoice. The invoice can also be added, like I said, it can be added, you can then add from the medical note or from billing or from the patient screen. You can also now check out without accepting payment and still process all of the necessary paperwork. And again, when it comes to checking out, use the feature in the schedule to check out, right? You can just hover over the patient appointment and do it. And in these cases, they've already been checked out, as you can see. Or, right, go to clinic census and do that. But this addition of adding documents and checking out will also be part of billing soon. So I hope that quick little review. And I'm checking if there's any last questions. I appreciate everyone's attendance. If you have further questions, again, it's matt@vettersoftware.com. I'm Director of Customer Development. I'm here to listen and help and shepherd along any requests or concerns you may have, or you can just give us a call directly. Thanks a lot for everyone's time, and I wish you all a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Was that an hour? There's no way that was a full hour, right?